Writing a legal brief for law school can be a really overwhelming process. Not because there's a ton of steps or because the process itself is terribly complicated, but just because there are lots of little details that you need to get right. And in my experience, that's what your legal writing / legal practice class is going to focus on, getting those little details right, especially when you're doing things like citations from the Blue Book. As a disclaimer, please listen to your legal practice or legal writing professor before you listen to me. In this video, I just wanted to give you a quick and dirty guide on the absolute basics of writing a legal brief so that you can pull your head up from under the water of the details and the citations and the case law and the types of courts that you're citing from, and just remember kind of the long game of what you're supposed to do. First, remember to identify the actual issues and questions. You don't want to get lost in and spend a lot of time in little rabbit trails that ultimately have nothing to do with the actual point that you are arguing. This happened to me the other day writing my moot court brief, which is what inspired this video, because I was supposed to be looking at one issue and I got sucked into figuring out this test for a different kind of standard of review that didn't even apply to the issue I was doing. It can be really frustrating and overwhelming. Again, I'm going to say that word like 20 times in this video. The point is, keep that actual issue or question that you're answering right in front of you the whole time. Next, use a pre-compiled list of sources to get a broad overview of the topic of your case. Two great ones that I use all the time are Westlaw Keynotes, where you click through the different categories until you find something or a couple things that are directly related to the issue you're trying to explore, or something called an ALR, which is an American Law Report. In these, they give a quick summary of the case law relevant to your issue as it applies in various jurisdictions. You definitely don't want to solely rely on these things, but they're a great place to start so you start learning some of the terminology and general argument structures that are going to be common in the cases that you look for in step 3. Step 3 is looking for secondary sources and cases that you might want to cite in your actual argument. In addition to your jumping off points from step 2, use Westlaw and Lexis's search engines to specify details that are going to make cases analogous to your own, and therefore relevant to cite and persuasive to whoever your audience is. And I really mean it when I say compile a list. I like to use Westlaw's folder feature. I'm pretty sure Lexis has an identical feature where I can just store all of the stuff I find. There's absolutely nothing worse than the feeling of knowing you saw it somewhere than getting caught for plagiarism. After you've compiled this list and have a general idea of the topic, it's time to start drafting your outline. The best way to do this is to write point headings for each section and subsection you anticipate writing. Of course, these are going to be subject to change as you develop your argument, but having an outline at the start gives you a sense of, again, like we're doing in this video, where you're going, where you've been, and what specific section you are addressing in that particular moment. Point headings should read like a mini summary of your argument. Without any additional content or citations, you want to be able to read each heading in order and have an idea of exactly what you're asking the court to do and why. Once you've created that game plan, it is time to start writing. For me, this is the hardest part. Staring at that blank page with nothing on it except a title can be really intimidating. But the more you do it, the more you realize that what you say in the first place doesn't really matter as long as you say something, because it's always going to be changed and edited and reorganized later. Remember that clarity is everything. Be precise and concise, but be willing to repeat your most important points when necessary to get them across to your reader in light of all of the other details surrounding them. Also double check that every fact you include in your argument is reflected in your fact summary at the beginning of the brief. The same thing goes for the rules that you cite in your rule application section of the brief. So in every section of your argument, your writing is going to begin with a rule explanation and then the rule application. In the rule explanation part of your case, you want to talk about case law, what the actual rule of the law is if there is one, and you might also want to discuss any counterpoints that your opponent might make. In the rule application section, you're going to take all of those rules and apply them to your actual case. So it's important that you don't include any rules in the application part that you didn't explain beforehand. That was step 5, by the way. I'm not sure I labeled it. Step 6, which is the final step, is to edit. As I've said several times, be willing to reevaluate and reorganize as you go, but also take a step back at the end, look at the whole argument with fresh eyes if you can, and see, does this actually flow together? Do all of these writings make sense in the subsection that they're in? And is all of this necessary to make the point I'm trying to get the court to agree with? Double check blue booking and formatting rules, especially whether you're in a class or in a court, because it's a silly thing to lose points or credibility on. So to review, first, keep the actual issue and question in front of you. Second, consider using a pre-compiled list of sources to get a general idea of the issue. 3, compile your own list of secondary sources and cases that you want to cite in your argument. 4th, draft an outline using point headings. 5th, get started writing. And 6th, make sure you edit. I hope that this quick guide to writing a law school brief was helpful for you. If it was, or you have extra tips or questions on this topic or anything else, please let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know by hitting the like button and subscribing so you don't miss my future content, which I put out every single Saturday. Well, most Saturdays. I probably actually won't have one next week because I'm moving back to St. Louis and everything, but I will keep you guys posted. Until the next time I see you, whenever that may be, God bless.